Welcome to our second series of the Birth and Baby Business Show, which we are calling Lessons from a Birth or Baby Business Owner. And we'll be speaking to those who are in or who have been in the birth and baby business world to ask them the questions that you would like to know the answers to on how they got to where they are in business today. Hello, my name is Anna LaGrange and I'm one half of BABA, the Birth and Baby Business Academy.
And my name is Liz Stamford, and I'm the other half of BABA, the community membership for birth and baby business owners. And today we have the pleasure of interviewing or chatting to the lovely Carly Budd. Now, I'm very excited about this because Carly is one of my biz buds, and we actually recently met for the first time in person in London, and I'm very excited to get two of like my favorite biz people in the same kind of room. So I'm ready for this, definitely. But anyway, you guys might not know who Carly is, so I'm going to introduce her to you. So Carly is a paediatric occupational therapist with a specialism in play and development of children aged 0 to 5 years. She is the founder of Carly Budd Developmental Play Academy, an online training platform for professionals in health and social care, early years and childcare, and the parent and baby class sector, with over 400 practitioners worldwide. Whoop, whoop. So that sounds brilliant. So, Carly, we'd really love to start with, why did you start your business? What sort of led you to the point that you're at now? Give us a overview.
Thanks, ladies. It was like a little seed that was planted when I actually was probably not that long, probably 2 or 3 years into being qualified as an occupational therapist. I was very lucky. I went straight into paediatrics. As occupational therapist, you can go in all sorts of different field sectors, areas, and I knew from the get-go I wanted to go into paediatrics. And at the time, we had contracts. I was in the NHS. We had contracts with Sure Start centres, and part of that was running weekly groups, sessions for parents. So I ran a tummy time class, what was called a monkey movers group, and it was all about empowering parents to play, connect, and support their baby's development, really. And I loved it. I looked forward to that session every week. And I really was passionate about that health promotion. Sadly, the funding got pulled and we weren't then going into Sure Start centres anymore. But I just really noticed, as an OT, I would be seeing children, infants, toddlers with developmental delays, concerns, difficulties. And so much of what I was seeing, not all the time, but quite often, was kind of a lack of understanding or awareness. It wasn't a lack of care, but a lack of understanding around how we can support infant development and actually how simple that can be. And I was kind of really aware of this. And then I went and, carried on with my career and become quite kind of senior in my team, and became a mum myself, and decided that actually I couldn't go back to what I was doing before, but I really wanted to make something of that little seed that had been planted like 8 years prior. That actually I felt like there was something there I could go with. And it was through running my own local, because I'd also trained in baby massage and baby yoga, running my own local classes and kind of really infusing my knowledge as an OT around child development. And I realised parents just loved it and just soaked it up. And I was like, wow, I'd love to share this with people who are running baby classes or are working directly with families, and just share my knowledge around infant development, milestones, mini milestones. Of course, one of my favourite subjects, tummy time, and positions for play. And then I just did it. I just did it one day. And that was in 2020. So it was a little bit hairy in a way, because just as I launched my first course, we went into the first lockdown. But actually, for me, that was maybe the best time, because suddenly people were going online, were checking out online training. And of course, for me, being a mum and having 2 children, it really fit fit around my family dynamics and everything else. So, I mean, there's so much I could go into about my journey and my story, but that in a nutshell is, you know, where it started, and that passion for health promotion and supporting development and really empowering parents to bring more play and playfulness to the home environment. Because, you know, even as an OT, when I was seeing a child for that 1 hour, that's great, but actually the real work, the real magic happens when they're at home with their parents, their caregivers. That's the environment that they're going to thrive in. And so supporting parents to fully understand, because it can all be so overwhelming. I know for myself, I found even with everything I knew, I found becoming a parent really overwhelming and anxiety provoking. And that was with my knowledge around play and development. So yeah, it's kind of twofold, really. It's actually supporting babies, their future outcomes, but also really empowering parents to see how much they're actually already doing, but how they can make very simple changes day to day to support their child's development.
Amazing. What a journey. Your passion just really, really shines through, and it's so lovely to hear. And I really feel like what you do is so different, really. It's such a new thing to bring to the birth and baby world. And you know, it's been received so well, because I mean, look at how many practitioners you've already got since 2020. So it's obviously been like a really, really good move for you to take. Did you ever see yourself as doing something like that? Did you ever think like at what point did you go, right, I'm going to create my own training program and all the nuts and bolts that go with that? Like you said, you wanted to bring it to more parents, and you know, via these different areas or different routes. But did you ever sort of sit down and think about like what it would take to actually create the training company, and what was that journey like?
Yeah, I think back when I first had that idea, I wanted to get more out into the community. So initially I remember thinking, oh, you know, I really want to run these type of classes for parents.
Yeah.
It was being part of like an online baby massage training that I was like, do you know what? I've got online training here in my brain, ready to just download, upload. And it was through, just kind of getting the confidence of being online. And I'd done some sort of training as a Blossom and for Blossom and Berry, a global baby massage and baby yoga trainer. And I'd been part of that community for a number of years. And I kind of felt like it was the next step was for me to have my own, because I was filtering my information through that because I was a trainer and lecturer. But I actually realised that I had so much, without sort of blowing my own trumpet, so much gold to share. I kind of really found this passion for actually talking about that stuff. Like you say, I light up when I talk about what I'm passionate about, like most of us. But no, I didn't see myself doing it this way. But I think it became apparent that people, again, particularly in that era where people were on Facebook and on these online communities and being on social media, and actually, you know, because I wasn't really on social media so much when I'd first qualified. I mean, I was, but we didn't use it like we do today. And I think kind of growing with that made me go, well, actually, there's like this whole world out there of people that potentially could be interested. And so I just kind of went with it. And actually, I look back now and I'm like, wow, that was really brave. Like at the time, I didn't kind of quite realise the extent of my decisions, but I think I just wanted it and felt so passionate about sharing. And it was just, something that I feel kind of naturally came to fruition. Not that it suddenly and miraculously wrote courses, that would have been great, but you know, like the idea and the business kind of came to fruition quite naturally.
I love that. I love it. Yeah, it's so well, I remember because I first met you in 2020 around that time, because we did a little bit, like, I think you'd made the decision, but we did a mastermind together. I think it was summer 2020, the three of us
That's
with some other
right.
Yeah.
people. And so I remember you saying, but I remember you sort of thinking, saying, I'm going to give this a go, I'm going to try it. And I was like, that's amazing. Because I mean, my background's paediatric nursing, so I know what occupational therapy is. I know how it covers so many different areas of life and stages of life, but I think for me, I'd always thought of it as a sort of specialist thing, you know what I mean, like for poorly kids with diagnosis, mental health issues, whatever it might be. So what I really love about what you've created is something that is actually accessible and important for everybody. And then, but with that, it also captures those families and those children, babies, that actually may really need those extra specialist bits and pieces, but you've already captured them in those classes and those tools earlier on. So I would just really love that aspect of what you do. And I love the naturalness of how it grew and developed. It reminds me a lot of how the Mindful Breastfeeding School came about as well, because I never intended for it to, I never had a plan for the Mindful Breastfeeding School. It was more just Susie and then Liz saying, we'd quite like someone to create something like this for us. And then it just grew and developed through them, really. And now it is, a bit like your company, sort of standing on its own 2 feet in its own entity. So I love that. And I just always say to people, I just followed my heart. Like, I just took one step and the next step and the next step in the direction that I believed I was supposed to go. There was no like big plan or like business plan or any particular strategy other than like, this seems to be what people are asking for and what they need. And I really see that from you as well. And that's how it's grown over the years, in that you've just kind of met that need and also realized that what you offer is so unique and so different. There's no one else, really doing anything similar to what you're doing. And it just was like, I think the thing is, when you've got something like that and you've got an idea, I think you've got to take it forward, because if you don't do it, eventually someone else will do it.
Yeah.
Or, like, if not you, why not you? Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's the right phrase, but yeah, it's like, you're just getting that message. And I think it is brave, but I always felt that there was something pulling me that I couldn't even stop, that I just had to be done. And that was that,
Giving me
really.
goosebumps, actually, because that is how I felt. I felt like I was kind of just, as cliche as it sounds, following my heart, but felt like something bigger was pulling me towards it. Like, it felt like I had to do it. Like, there wasn't a choice. There was a choice, but something inside of me was like, this is the path. This is the way I want to go. And nobody else has trodden this path. Obviously, there's OTs out in the world doing training, very like OT and therapy specific. And I do attract actually a lot of other OTs, physios, speech therapists, but not so much sort of more in the early years realm. And so no one had really trodden this path before, and it was new, but I was here for it. And I just, like you, just felt that calling and did it.
Yeah,
So
and thank
it's
goodness
so
you
great.
did, because
It's
so good.
It's so inspiring to hear, and I think that people listening to this who maybe are in the birth or baby world, who have got so much knowledge in their heads from like their experience, the training courses that they've done, or maybe they've got like professional healthcare background like both of you, or maybe a totally alternative route. Like, why not just do this? Like, give us your knowledge, tell us what make the world a better place by passing that knowledge on. I think a lot of the time people are too afraid, aren't they? They're too afraid to kind of put themselves out there, or it can feel too big. It can feel like, where do you even start? Like, how do you even begin? It's interesting listening to you two saying that you didn't really have a plan, like you were pulled along. Now, I did have a plan. I was listening to you two thinking, oh my God, I'm so like premeditative, or whatever the word is. But I definitely, when I joined the Calm Birth School, first of all, like as an instructor, and then I became like the manager of the Calm Birth School, and just became more and more involved in the business. But right from joining the Calm Birth School, I knew that I wanted to be part of it. So in my head, my goal was to become a partner in the Calm Birth School. And that was something that Susie and I talked about for a while. And then it turned into me actually buying and owning the Calm Birth School. But prior to that, I had written the training program. So it was that my ambition was to make the Calm Birth School a training school. Wasn't not because Susie's passion was like the sort of online digital side of the world, and she brought the world's first online hypnobirthing program into fruition, and that was her passion. She did amazingly with it, but mine was always going to be the training side of things. So I do feel like I had a plan, but then I can relate to what you were saying when it comes to Baba. And me and Anna have said this before. It felt like a seed like dropped in, and then suddenly it was like we were just pulled in this direction, and it had a total life of its own, and we couldn't not do it because it just, everything just felt so right, and it all just, I'm going to say dropped into place, but I mean, nothing in business ever really drops into place. You've got to work at it, and you've got to be like really consistent with it. But yeah, so that's my way of relating to what you two have experienced. And then the other thing, Carly, is you mentioned 2020, and that's when you launched your training courses. And I think that the pandemic was horrendous for so many reasons, and you know, the subsequent years. But for many people in business, especially in the online world, 2020 and 2021 were absolute boom years, you know, because people are at home on furlough. They were looking for something. They suddenly stopped on that like hamster wheel of life, and they were looking for fulfillment, for purpose, to do something different. And that gave them the opportunity to do it. And then subsequently after that, there's been, you know, different challenges because the world has changed again in so many different ways. But I found that really relatable. And I guess my next question for you is, so what have the challenges been in your business so far after that launch in 2020? And, you know, is there anything you want to share with us to help us understand a little bit more about your business journey since then?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it was like this great big boom welcome into the online training world. I was just overwhelmed with how many people signed up for my tummy time practitioner training. Didn't really realize that was probably not normal. Like the amount of like people that were signing up, I was just like, wow, oh my goodness, like so over the moon, so grateful. But then there was like the plateau. When suddenly like life went back to normality. There was more choice of people suddenly cottoned on to the fact that you can create online course content, and kind of that picked up, and then obviously people had spent money and needed to get back into things, and then there was kind of like this lull of sort of course sales and enrollments, and then this kind of real feeling of like having to push. And I was like, what is this? You know, like, oh, that's it. That's my business down the pan. But actually realised that all that was happening was it was just finding its kind of middle ground. You know, it wasn't plateauing. It was actually just going into kind of a more of a steady state.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think actually it's just time that gives you that that knowledge and understanding. Like when you're in it, it can be quite, you know, frightening. You know, you've got this business, you put everything into it, you're expecting things to turn, you know, to go a certain way, and then they're not. And then you kind of question yourself, what am I doing wrong? And that, you know, that's something that I work on myself a lot, because I do tend to internalize like, oh, it must be me. But actually, when I set back and just reevaluated my goals, and actually at that point I then actually started to put a bit more of a strategy in place, had a few more goals, whereas before I was kind of going along this my merry way of it all just feeling like, you know, not easy, that's not the right word, but flowing to this kind of standstill of like, oh, okay. That's when I started looking more into like business coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a therapist, I actually had no clue around business. I'm, not a salesperson. Like I've, worked in the NHS, and then I did do some private work and independent work. But again, it was the work sort of was there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this was having to kind of find people to listen to me and to want to invest in themselves and their business. And that was a new, very, very new ground for me. And so, yeah, it was at that point that I was like, actually, I need to invest in myself, coaching, mastermind classes, things like that, just to get my head into the game and look at the stuff. I mean, I didn't know what a funnel was or anything. I was like, OT me, I'm thinking like funnels, in the water, sand pits, like not email. So I'm like, what? So it was a real learning curve. And actually, as I'm talking about it now, I'm like, I don't think I've really reflected on that until right now. But like that real learning curve of like learning the lingo and also finding my way with that and how I want to show up in my marketing as well, like, and not always following, it's great to have guidelines, but also feeling like confident enough to put yourself and how you feel about how you show up and share your passions and your marketing and things like that. So yeah, that's probably the biggest thing in business that I've felt, was a bit of a bump in the road. There's been other things, lots of learning about, boundaries and, honoring your worth and, doing things that feel aligned, not just saying yes to everything and actually looking at how much you've got, cups, how many spoons you've got and, all of that side of things as well. So sort of personally and professionally, it's been quite entwined in that, in that sense. So yeah, I think that's the main things in a nutshell, really.
Yeah,
Relatable.
it's a lot, isn't it? Very relatable, very relatable. And I think the thing with the pandemic as well was that, when your business is that busy as well, you need more help and you have to invest money in things. And I think for anyone who's not a business minded or hasn't been through ups and downs of business before, it can be quite easy to sort of put in investments and staff or tech, whatever it is, and then you've got that responsibility to pay that, and then when things take a dip, you have to make some really tough decisions. So I think it was a big learning curve for lots of people, the ups and downs of the few years. And I don't think it's not just relevant to our industry. Obviously lots of other industries as well really suffered over the last sort of 4 years in different ways. So I think there's some big lessons. And I'd love to know as well, sort of over the last 4 years, obviously your stuff is around and about more, and I'm assuming there's other people who are now doing maybe some similar things, or things that you might deem as not perhaps direct competitors, but sort of things. Like, how do you, as the online world is growing and the birth and baby world is growing, how do you sort of try and differentiate yourself and keep yourself different and unique to the other things that are coming out?
So I definitely have seen more of things that I was perhaps talking about 4 years ago, or even prior to that, are now, I'm noticing in other places. And there is that little bit, sometimes you think, like that competitor thing. You think, then actually I think the reason I started this is for health promotion. So the more people talking about it, the better.
Yeah.
But I always come back to, or try to come back to, the fact that I am a qualified occupational therapist, looking at my unique skill set. I'm a registered health professional. What I'm offering is like 20 years of experience of working within paediatrics, not just looking at typical development, but I've worked with children with very complex needs, medical needs, disabilities, neurodevelopmental challenges. And for me, I feel that, that is where I want to try and focus on when I'm sharing with people why they should come to me, and reminding myself that I have got a wealth of knowledge. It's taken me a lot of time, though. I'm saying that now to own that and not be the kind of humble, you know, pleasant little girl that's like, yes, thank you, please, and yes, I'll take that. You know, actually owning it and saying. But even then, I think Liz, you were saying to me the other day, I need to say it more. But yeah, just trying to stay in my lane. This is my thing that I'm doing at the moment. Stay in my lane. I know what I know. I'm always open to learning. I always think actually there is room for everybody with what they're saying, because we all bring our own unique experiences to the table. And you know, as an OT, you know, even within my professionalism in paediatrics, you have within that specialisms. You sort of like have specialisms within your specialisms. So for me, it's really that infant development, toddler development, use of play, and coming from like a really evidence-based background as well. I think that's the health professional in me, you know, that evidence-based practice, and that dedication to continuous learning and development for myself. I'm a bit of a development junkie, but you know, professionally as well as personally, you know, working on myself, my learning, how I can be a better version of myself, and how that then filters into my courses, my training, how I show up. I don't really know if this is answering the question, but I guess these are the ways that I try and stand apart from anybody else that might be doing something similar, or you know, similar lines.
Definitely.
Yeah, it does answer the question, because, you know, I think we can't control what other people come out with or what they might, you know, what they might sell. And we can, you know, it's really useful as a business owner to be important that we keep our own emotions and feelings in check about that. I mean, when something new comes out or something that hits a bit close to the bone and you think, oh, well, that's a bit, you know, similar, and we automatically have that sort of scarcity mindset, don't we? We can't help it pops up. But I think just that, having that awareness, and then, like you say, then trying to stay in your own lane, reminding yourself why you do what you do and what makes it unique and different, is really useful. I think it's essential if you're going to sort of be a leader in this kind of world and create products or services that are sort of groundbreaking and unique and different. You've got to be able to work through that stuff. Otherwise, you're not going to survive. You're not going to keep going. It will just you know, it'll be really emotionally hard, wouldn't it? I think. And then that also, like you say, filters down. Yes, not taking personally.
Things personally. That's a big thing. You know, it is. Some things, you know, can be personal, but you know, actually, in business, people just, you know, we're all within our rights to do our thing. And I sometimes think, like, who am I to say? You know, for example, I don't own Tummy Time. I've got my my views, my experiences, my phrases. I do think that's what I find hard sometimes when I see my word for word things I've said. I'm a bit like, you know,
plagiarism.
Come on, let's credit people. You know, if you're using their content or you're using their knowledge, and I think sometimes there's like etiquette, like that's
there
not
is
always followed. And I think, you know, most people, I mean, I'm more than happy for people to quote me, you know, what I share, and but I do kind of want the credit, because it's hard work doing this stuff, right? And that's, like I say, 20 years of my experience that's brought me to that point. But actually, you know, like I say, I don't own Play, I don't own Tummy Time, and so actually, the more people are out there doing stuff, it's great. But if people want to come, I tell myself, you know, the people who want to invest in themselves, in their, you know, in very high quality evidence-based training, like to become an advanced practitioner, I'm their girl. I'm here. I'm waiting for them.
Definitely. And that's like, it's really good. The way that you've described how you differentiate yourself is there's a real authority piece behind it. And I really like that. And I think that exactly what you just said. Like the people who want that and need that, they're going to come to you, and that's why you need to keep putting that authority piece about your experience, your expertise, and as along with your passion as well, because it will really help you to continue to stand out as your business grows. So a different question, maybe take us on a different line. So what would you say are the 3 most important habits to have to create a successful birth or baby business?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
3 things. First of all, I think my biggest takeaway is looking after myself. Yeah, like that just seems so said time and time again, doesn't it? But I've learned from like a little bit of a mini burnout in like, I think it was like 2021. Yeah, after I pummeled out like 4 courses. I'd written my tummy time practitioner course. I'd written my diploma in toddler developmental play. I'd written another course on adapting baby massage, and I wasn't looking after myself. I think the passion was there, but I didn't put in time for me. So number 1 is looking after you. I know that just sounds so cliche, doesn't it? But it really is like,
How do
yeah,
you look
you've
after
got
yourself now then, Carly? Like after that
so
experience, how do you look after yourself?
yeah, I think so. For me, getting out in nature, I'm so lucky. I'm in the Essex countryside. I can walk out of my back door and I'm in fields. And yeah, if my husband doesn't know where I am, he knows I'm amongst the trees somewhere. If he gets home and I'm and I'm not about. But yeah, so getting out in, for me, it's getting out in nature. It's connecting to that thing that regulates you, that makes you feel grounded. So for me, yeah, it's getting out in nature. It's disconnecting from my phone, which can be really hard when you've got an online business and you want to be present and answer questions and things like that. And it's things that feel playful as well, of course. Like it's got to feel, some things need to feel relaxing and restful, but that playfulness as well. So for me, it's like looking after myself is also doing things that are fun, that aren't just all about productivity and how much, I've churned out. Actually dancing in the kitchen, putting on your favourite. I love a playlist.
I know you
I've
send
shared
them to me
many
regularly.
playlists, don't I? I love music. I love sharing songs. If I think somebody might like a song, I share it. So for me, yeah, it's doing things that fill my cup, really. So that's number 1, finding those things. And sometimes you don't know what those things are. So actually giving yourself the time to find out what it is that lights you up, what feels playful, what feels joyful. So that's definitely number 1. 2, I think, is investing in systems that are going to support you. For me, it's things like my mailing system, things like that. Those things that you can automate, which is a big learning for me. But yeah, having those automations where you can. For me, if it might be that some people can afford to have somebody to pay regularly, to do all those things for them. But like software, we were talking about this just before we hopped on, but software now is just fantastic. There's so many things. So invest in those things. And 3, I think, is remember your why. When it's feeling tough, maybe have somewhere like your little mission statement, or like some kind of like vision board or something that just reminds you of your why, because you are going to hit bumps in the road. There's no one that I know with a successful business who hasn't had times where they've just wanted to finish it and not think about it again. But actually it's reconnecting to that why, that purposeful, meaningful why. I think that's so important. And surrounding yourself, this is maybe technically a 4, but surrounding yourself with people who get it as well and have that purpose and that passion and that drive. You know, I've actually felt so much better in business personally since having more of a community, you know, yourselves included, of people who get it. Because it can be really lonely when you are running your own business, you're self-employed. So yeah, that for me is a really big one as well. So I've kind of given you 4 there. I've given you a bonus extra.
We'll let you off. Yeah. But they're all really, really great and really relatable, and things that I think Anna and I talk about all the time. You know, taking care of yourself and can often be the missing piece. Like if you're just banging away, working really, really hard, and things aren't moving for you, then like it could be an energetic thing. You know, you need to kind of like stop, take note of like how you're feeling, what you're thinking, and really take care of yourself, like you said. And then when you mentioned the systems and things like that, it reminded me of what we were saying earlier on in the conversation about after the sort of 2020 kind of like buzz and like high sales and all this sort of stuff, when everything kind of slowed down for pretty much everybody. I think if people say, oh no, my boom year was end of 2021, 2022, it's like, really? I think there's maybe some questions around that. But I think what I found was, and I think Anna's kind of the same, is that, you know, without those kind of systems in the background running, like your funnels, like your, you know, your automated stuff, you were kind of, it's very hard to get ahead of the game. You know, you've got to always have those things working for you in order to just keep generating the awareness about your brand, the inquiries, the like your presence, and the fact that you're selling something that's valuable to other people. So that was a real lesson for me, and I think that's a great thing to share with people, is like getting into the habit of having these funnels and automations in the background are super important. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. No, I agree with all of those 4 things. And I think really that's answered our last question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just in case you have anything else that you have, you know, in mind about, you know, just that one piece of advice. If somebody wants to start up a birth or baby business, they want to create something that's really sustainable and impactful, what would be your sort of one piece of advice for them to make it a success?
I'd say if you've got that passion and that drive, you're already halfway there.
Yeah.
It's just taking that first step, isn't it? And I actually shared a reel this week, actually, about, you know, taking that first step. That quote, the 1,000 steps starts with the journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first, or something like that. I can't think of it properly, but I'm paraphrasing. But it's just taking that first step, isn't it?
Yeah.
And sometimes not jumping too far ahead. It's good to have vision, it's good to have goals, but actually I think it's really powerful to stay grounded in where you are now, what you're capable of now, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself and overburden yourself, because that can put you off. But what can I do today? What can I do by the end of next week? What can I do next month? And try and take it like slowly but surely. I think that's the one thing I would say. But if you've got that idea, you've got that passion, that drive, I'd say you're halfway there, because that is the thing that's gonna keep you going, keep your momentum. It's just owning it. It's sometimes saying, actually, I'm gonna do it. And having that accountability can really help as well. So reaching out to other people, you know, like your community, for example, people there are going to be very similar. You know, on a similar part, not necessarily the same thing exactly, but, you know, community, I keep saying that, I think is so important. So see if you can, you know, get that from the get-go. It took me a little while to sort of find mine. So yeah, that would definitely be my little pointers there.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, I love that. Really good advice. Very sound advice. Yeah, thank you. Oh, it's been lovely chatting to you, Carly.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for listening.
It's been so nice. Would you tell everybody where they can find you if they want more information about your courses, or they just want to soak up some Carly Bud? Where can they find you?
So, absolutely. So my social media handle is @Carly Bud. That's Bud with 2 Ds _OT. My website is www.carlybud.co.uk. So you'll find me, hanging out mainly I'm on all of the socials, but you'll mainly find me on Instagram. That seems to be the one that I like the best. I try and get into the TikTok world, but I don't know if I've got it in me.
I think you'd be great on
done.
TikTok,
Very
personally.
impressive.
Yeah, I think you'd be great on it.
You're not the first person to say that. A few people have said
would.
that the eyebrows make a really good thing over there.
Oh, yeah, no, you haven't done an eyebrow reel for a while. I think you need to get one of those up and out. They're special, definitely. They're very special.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Carly, for joining us. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think there's been so many valuable lessons, and that's really the aim of these podcast episodes, is to share our lessons with other people who want to create successful, sustainable, profitable birth and baby businesses. So if you've been listening or watching on YouTube, please let us know what you think about this episode. You can drop a comment on YouTube. You can leave a review with your favorite podcast provider, or you can just hop over to Instagram and let us know what you thought of this conversation, so we can keep churning them out for you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.